Hey everyone, welcome back to the Rise Up podcast, the place where we dive deep into everyday challenges and discover how to grow stronger from them. I'm your host, and today we're talking about a common trap we all fall into, thinking that just knowing something is enough to succeed. Spoiler alert, it's not. We're going to explore the difference between knowing and doing, why failure is part of the process, and how to turn knowledge into wisdom. If you've ever felt stuck, like you know what you should do, but just aren't doing it, this episode is for you. And don't worry, for anyone who wants to follow along with the transcript, we've got a PDF available in the description for you to check out. Alright, let's get into it. Why knowing isn't enough, the real secret to success. You ever notice how when you're facing a tough situation, the first thing you want is a solution? It's only natural. You'll ask a friend, Google it, or call up your mom, right? And then, more often than not, the advice you get? You've heard it before. Maybe your response is a quick, yeah, I know that already, and you brush it off, looking for something new, something fresh. But here's the kicker. If you know it so well, why aren't you doing it? Let's be real for a second. How many of us have complained about feeling tired and sluggish, and then when someone suggests hitting the gym, we roll our eyes and say, I know, exercise is good for me. But instead of actually getting off the couch, we just nod our heads and go back to binge-watching TV. Knowing what's good for us doesn't mean squat unless we put it into action. Take meditation, for example. Everyone and their grandma seems to know what meditation is. It's all over the place. Apps, YouTube, people doing it in the park. In theory, it's simple. Sit still, breathe in, breathe out, let your thoughts come and go without clinging to them. Easy, right? But here's the thing. Knowing how to meditate is one thing, but actually sitting down, clearing your mind, and practicing it regularly? Now that's a whole different ballgame. Most people can ace a test on what is meditation, but how many can actually stick to a practice? Not many. It's not that it's hard to understand, it's that we don't really get it until we've lived it, until we've experienced it. And that's where the magic lies. In the doing, not just the knowing. The gap between knowing and understanding. There's a huge difference between knowing something and truly understanding it. Think of it like this. You can know how to ride a bike in theory, but until you hop on that bike and feel the wobbles, the balance, the rush of the wind, you don't really understand what it's like to ride. The same goes for life. Let's say you've got a friend who's feeling down, and you know all the right things to say, but if you don't truly understand where they're coming from, your words might not land the way you hope. Empathy, the ability to understand and feel what someone else is going through, is where the real connection happens. And that takes effort. It takes listening, patience, and sometimes just being there without needing to fix anything. It's not just about being right. In today's world, everyone wants to be right. We argue on social media, we debate with our coworkers, we fight to prove that we know more than the next person. But what if being right isn't the goal? What if understanding, really getting where others are coming from, is what matters more? You could walk into a new job with all the knowledge in the world, ready to shake things up, only to find that your big ideas don't fit the culture of the place. It's like trying to redecorate someone else's house without asking them if they even want new furniture. You might know that your way is better, but until you take the time to understand their perspective, your ideas won't get far. Success takes time, just like growing a plant. Let me share a little story. I recently got into growing succulents. I thought, hey, this is easy. Just pluck a leaf, stick it in some soil, water it, and boom, new plant. I was so sure it would sprout in no time, but after 2 weeks, nothing happened. I was starting to lose patience. Then slowly, I saw tiny roots forming. It hit me. Growth, real growth, takes time. Success is a lot like that. You can know what you need to do, but results don't happen overnight. Whether it's starting a new business, working on a personal goal, or building a relationship, there's no fast track. It's like trying to grow a plant. You can't rush it. You've got to water it, give it sunlight, and most importantly, be patient. The formula, knowing plus doing equals understanding. So what's the takeaway here? Knowledge is important, sure. But knowing something in your head isn't enough. You've got to live it, experience it, and practice it. Only then do you truly understand. It's like cooking. You can read a recipe 1,000 times, but until you actually get in the kitchen and whip up that dish, you won't know how it turns out. Understanding comes from doing. It's when you combine what you know with real-life experience that the magic happens. So don't stop at I know. Push yourself to take that next step. To practice, to experience, to grow. That's where real progress lies. The I know trap, how it holds you back. Let's dive deeper into something we've all been guilty of, the dreaded I know response. It's like a reflex. When someone gives us advice or a helpful reminder, we often shoot back with, "Yeah, I know." But do we really? I mean, sure, we might know in theory, but what good is that knowledge if we don't actually do something with it? Think about it like this. Ever been in a class where the teacher goes over the same basic concept over and over again? You're sitting there thinking, I get it already, can we move on? But if that's true, if you really get it, then why aren't you applying it in your life? This is the trap we fall into. Mistaking familiarity with mastery. Just because you've heard something a million times doesn't mean you've mastered it. Take health, for example. How many times have you heard the same advice? Eat well, exercise regularly, get enough sleep, drink water, manage stress. You know the drill. Everyone knows this stuff, but how many of us actually live by it? It's like we're walking around with this treasure chest of knowledge, but we leave it locked up, never cashing in on its value. Knowledge is like a gym membership. Here's another way to think about it. Knowledge is like a gym membership. You can sign up, get the shiny key tag, and brag about how you're part of this awesome gym, but if you never show up and work out, nothing changes. You've got the membership, the knowledge, but without action hitting the gym, you'll stay exactly where you are. The knowledge itself doesn't make you stronger. Showing up and putting in the work, that's where the gains are. It's so easy to fall into the trap of thinking that having the knowledge is enough. We collect information like it's going out of style. Books, podcasts, YouTube videos, TED Talks. We become walking encyclopedias of tips, tricks, and life hacks. But the question we need to ask ourselves is, am I actually doing anything with all this knowledge? Because let's face it, knowing and doing are two very different things. Action turns knowledge into wisdom. This is where the rubber meets the road, turning knowledge into wisdom. And wisdom, my friends, only comes from experience. You don't gain wisdom by reading about life. You gain it by living life. Making mistakes, learning from them, and adjusting along the way. Imagine this. You're learning to cook. You can watch hours of cooking shows, read recipe books, and understand the science of flavors. But until you step into the kitchen, roll up your sleeves, and get your hands dirty, you're not really going to get it. Sure, you'll burn a few dishes and maybe set off the smoke alarm, but that's how you learn. Those mistakes? They're gold. Every failure is a step closer to mastering the skill. This applies to every area of life, relationships, careers, hobbies, you name it. The more you do, the more you learn, and that's when knowledge turns into something more. It becomes wisdom, something that no amount of studying can replace. The confidence illusion. Why knowing feels good. Here's the funny thing about knowing something. It feels good. There's a little boost of confidence that comes with being in the know. We like to feel smart, capable, and ahead of the curve. That's why we so often default to, I know, when someone offers advice. It's like saying, hey, I've got this under control. But do we really? Or are we just leaning on that feeling of security that knowledge brings without taking the next step to actually do something? Think about how often we Google something, get the answer, and then move on, thinking, well, now I know. But until we put that knowledge to use, it's not actually helping us. Knowing how to build a table doesn't mean you can build one. Until you pick up the tools and start working on it, all you've got is an idea. And here's the catch. Knowing feels safe. Doing feels risky. When we step into action, there's the possibility of failure. We might mess up, and no one likes that feeling. But guess what? That's where the growth happens. If we avoid action because we're afraid of failing, we're missing out on the whole point of learning in the first place. Embrace the mess. Why failing is part of the process. Here's a truth that might sting a little. You're going to fail. We all are. But failure isn't something to avoid, it's something to embrace. It's part of the learning process, and it's how we get from knowing to truly understanding. So many people are paralyzed by the fear of making mistakes that they never take the first step. But mistakes are how we learn. Ever try to learn a new language? It's awkward at first. You stumble over words, you make embarrassing grammar mistakes, and you probably sound ridiculous. But those awkward moments are crucial. Every mistake gets you one step closer to fluency. If you wait until you're perfect, you'll never start. This applies to every skill and goal in life. Waiting for the perfect time or until you know everything is just another way of putting off action. The truth is, you'll never know everything, and the perfect time doesn't exist. So, start messy, fail, learn, grow, repeat. The secret to real success. Here's the bottom line. Success isn't about how much you know. It's about how much you're willing to do. You can read every self-help book on the planet, but if you're not putting the advice into practice, you're stuck in neutral. The people who succeed are the ones who take action, make mistakes, and keep moving forward. So, what's stopping you? If you've been sitting on the sidelines waiting for the right moment to start, this is your wake-up call. The right moment is now. Whatever it is you've been wanting to do, whether it's getting fit, learning a new skill, or starting a passion project, it's time to stop knowing and start doing. Because in the end, success is about more than just knowledge. It's about having the courage to act, to take risks, and to learn from the journey. That's where the magic happens. Here's a vocabulary list based on the text, designed specifically for English learners who want to sound more natural when speaking like Americans. The terms and phrases below are commonly used in everyday conversations and are perfect for enhancing your language skills. We've included meanings and examples to help you understand how to use them in context. Dive in and start practicing these to level up your English. Shoot back, meaning to quickly reply, often in a defensive or automatic way. Example, when I told her she was late, she shot back with, "I know, traffic was terrible." Once again, shoot back, meaning to quickly reply, often in a defensive or automatic way. Example, when I told her she was late, she shot back with, "I know, traffic was terrible." Roll your eyes, meaning to move your eyes upward to show annoyance or disbelief. Example, she rolled her eyes when I suggested going to the same restaurant again. Once again, roll your eyes, meaning to move your eyes upward to show annoyance or disbelief. Example, she rolled her eyes when I suggested going to the same restaurant again. The kicker, meaning an unexpected or surprising point that changes the situation. Example, the plan sounded great, but here's the kicker. We have to finish by tomorrow. Once again, the kicker, meaning an unexpected or surprising point that changes the situation. Example, the plan sounded great, but here's the kicker. We have to finish by tomorrow. A whole different ballgame. Meaning a situation that is completely different from what was expected. Example, working from home sounded easy, but when I tried it, it was a whole different ballgame. Once again, a whole different ballgame. Meaning a situation that is completely different from what was expected. Example, working from home sounded easy, but when I tried it, it was a whole different ballgame. The rubber meets the road. Meaning the point where a theory or idea is tested in a real situation. Example, you can study all the business books you want, but where the rubber meets the road is when you start your own company. Once again, the rubber meets the road. Meaning the point where a theory or idea is tested in a real situation. Example, you can study all the business books you want, but where the rubber meets the road is when you start your own company. Ace a test. Meaning to do very well on a test or exam. Example, I studied all night and managed to ace the math test. Once again, ace a test. Meaning to do very well on a test or exam. Example, I studied all night and managed to ace the math test. Burn a few dishes. Meaning to fail or make mistakes, especially when learning something new. Example, don't worry about burning a few dishes when learning to cook. It's all part of the process. Once again, burn a few dishes, meaning to fail or make mistakes, especially when learning something new. Example, don't worry about burning a few dishes when learning to cook. It's all part of the process. The confidence illusion. meaning the false sense of confidence someone has when they think they know something but haven't actually mastered it. Example: he had the confidence illusion, thinking he could swim after reading a book, but reality hit him in the pool. Once again, the confidence illusion, meaning the false sense of confidence someone has when they think they know something but haven't actually mastered it. Example: he had the confidence illusion, thinking he could swim after reading a book, but reality hit him in the pool, where the magic happens, meaning the place or point where something special or extraordinary occurs. Example: it's in the kitchen where the magic happens when you're cooking up something delicious. Once again, where the magic happens, meaning the place or point where something special or extraordinary occurs. Example: it's in the kitchen where the magic happens when you're cooking up something delicious. Embrace the mess, meaning to accept the difficulties or imperfections in a process. Example: starting a business is chaotic at first, but you've got to embrace the mess to succeed. Once again, embrace the mess, meaning to accept the difficulties or imperfections in a process. Example: starting a business is chaotic at first, but you've got to embrace the mess to succeed. Set off the smoke alarm, meaning to accidentally cause a situation to become chaotic or problematic, literally or metaphorically. Example: I set off the smoke alarm while trying to make breakfast this morning. Once again, set off the smoke alarm, meaning to accidentally cause a situation to become chaotic or problematic, literally or metaphorically. Example: I set off the smoke alarm while trying to make breakfast this morning. Step into action, meaning to begin taking steps or doing something actively. Example: it's time to stop talking and step into action if we want to meet the deadline. Once again, step into action, meaning to begin taking steps or doing something actively. Example: it's time to stop talking and step into action if we want to meet the deadline. Hop on that bike, meaning to start something, especially a task or activity. Example: if you want to learn to ride, you've got to hop on that bike and start pedaling. Once again, hop on that bike, meaning to start something, especially a task or activity. Example: if you want to learn to ride, you've got to hop on that bike and start pedaling. Walk on the sidelines, meaning to watch something happen without getting involved. Example: she spent years walking on the sidelines of life, waiting for the perfect moment to start her dream. Once again, walk on the sidelines, meaning to watch something happen without getting involved. Example: she spent years walking on the sidelines of life, waiting for the perfect moment to start her dream. Cash in on, meaning to take advantage of something to benefit from it. Example: he cashed in on his social media following by launching a successful clothing brand. Once again, cash in on, meaning to take advantage of something to benefit from it. Example: he cashed in on his social media following by launching a successful clothing brand. That's a wrap for today's episode, folks. I hope this conversation opened your eyes to the idea that success isn't just about what you know, but about taking action, learning from your mistakes, and growing through the process. Remember, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. So the next time you catch yourself thinking, I know this already, ask yourself, am I really doing it? And don't forget, if you want to go over today's episode again, or share it with a friend, the full transcript is available as a PDF in the description. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Rise Up podcast, and as always, keep rising up, stay strong, and I'll catch you in the next episode.